Hey everyone, welcome to Youth Bombs. I'm Craig.
I'm Holden.
And we're the voice of young conservatives in Alachua County. Recently, Elon Musk touring Pennsylvania talking about key issues, one of which was foreign aid. So a voter came and asked him, what do you think of all the money that's going to foreign countries? And Elon was saying that, hey, this is ridiculous. We're spending billions on Ukraine and Israel and other countries when we could be saving it, when the deep state is taking it, when it's not serving the American people or our interests. It's serving the interests of defense contractors and foreign nationals. Holden, what's your take?
Well, I think it's definitely it's good to talk about it because of just the sheer presence that the United States has around the world and the sheer amount of foreign aid that's given. Of course, a lot of foreign aid is going to be excess military weapons, especially going to Ukraine and stuff. And I don't have as much of an issue with that as just giving money. Like you see $8 billion going into Ukrainian politicians' pensions, right? And we're on the hook for that stuff. And I mean, that's just ridiculous. We shouldn't have, if we want to declare war on these countries, then we could talk about that. But until then, I don't think we should be sending any just money to them, especially given the fiscal position of the United States, which is horrendous. And we're spending out of control in an out of control manner. So,
Absolutely. And it just provokes the situation with other countries. For example, all this money going to Ukraine provokes Russia. And people continue to provoke Russia in a foolish manner. For example, the new NATO chief, Mark Rutte, who was the former prime minister of the Netherlands, said that Ukraine should be a member of NATO. This is ridiculous. This is stupid. It's going to drag us into World War III. But these politicians don't care about the financial or human implications of these wars. They're only concerned with lining their pockets. And that's what's happening with these wealthy politicians in Ukraine, is that they're getting very wealthy at the hands of the American taxpayer.
well, I'd say that I don't care about really provoking Putin. This might sound controversial. I think that we need to stand up to dictators, absolutely, and know that we're not going to give them any ground whatsoever. But the way that we're handling the situation, I totally agree, is not the way to do it either. I don't think that we should have put sanctions on Russia. I think the sanctions on Russia are just it's just giving people or countries more reason to sell dollars, and the dollar is what's holding this whole thing together. We could run these $1 trillion plus trade deficits because we have the reserve currency. We have the most robust market, the biggest market. We've got trillions and trillions of dollars of treasuries. So, we're safe. We're a safe haven for people. And if we show that we're not, that's just going to exacerbate the dollar problem that we have right now. So I think that we need to be practical about this matter and look at what's in the best interest of individuals to protect property. So in that circumstance, the giving money to foreign countries, I don't think that's a good thing.
Now, Holden, can you tell us about the value of these other countries holding the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency or something of another nature, and how that benefits the American people?
Yeah, definitely. So 8.5 trillion, a little bit more, of U.S. dollars is held by foreign countries. You can go on the U.S. debt clock and it's there. And so what that does for us is it keeps our interest rates low. And so that benefits American consumers, because you could go and buy a car and it's cheaper because you're borrowing in dollars. The price to borrow in dollars is cheaper, partially because we have the reserve currency. A lot of countries are buying dollars. Another thing is we get to buy a lot of goods. With the strong dollar, we get to buy a lot of goods across the world, and that benefits the United States consumers. We get to run $1 trillion plus trade deficits, and that's an amazing for the United States consumer. We have a strong currency, so we're able to do that. And so, now tariffs would be really bad for the United States because of that, especially for the United States. Tariffs in general are bad, but especially for the United States, given the fact that we're running these huge trade deficits and we're so dependent on the rest of the world for goods. If we put tariffs, we're gonna suck the air out of what's left of the economy, because we're so dependent on foreign goods. About 40% of capital goods are just from foreign countries. So, yeah, I mean, it's really important for the United States to maintain its reserve currency status. Now, with the out of control government spending and a bunch of other, sanctions and all that kind of stuff, it's just giving countries more reasons to get out of dollars, and that's horrible for the United States. And it would just have horrific economic consequences if we lose that status.
And what does it effectively mean that these countries are using the dollar as a reserve currency? What does that look like in practice?
It's the most liquid currency, so it's the most accepted worldwide. If you have a $100 bill, you could sell it fast. Money allows, money is the most liquid medium of exchange, and the dollar happens to be that worldwide. So countries could save in dollars and be less concerned about saving in pesos. Pesos 24 years ago, it went from 1 peso, it was 1 peso to the dollar then it went from 5 pesos to the dollar to 100 pesos to the dollar to 250 pesos to the dollar to now 850 pesos to, so that's what happens. Like in other currencies, you're getting absolutely wrecked. And so dollars has a huge market of savings. Financial institutions, they save in dollars. And so it's the safest place to park your money. And if you're a large financial institution, if you sell $10 billion worth of treasuries, it's not going to collapse the market because there's so much liquidity in it already. There's so much stored value in there. Warren Buffett is not saving in euros or pesos, right? He's saving in dollars because he knows it has the best market. If he sells his, $280 billion cash pile, it's not going to crash the market like it would for other currencies. So that's a huge benefit that the United States dollar has. That's why it's the reserve currency. So it's widely accepted, and you could save in it knowing that you have a huge market in there, and that's a huge benefit for the United States consumers.
Okay, interesting. And I'm sure that stability is also useful in keeping our debt down, which is already explosive, but could be much, much worse if we had the rate of inflation that other countries do, like Mexico or Venezuela or other countries that are having significant challenges there.
Yeah, if our interest rates were to be higher, I mean, the whole thing would implode. The reason why we could run these massive budget deficits for all this time is because we could keep interest rates artificially low. But if interest rates go up, this whole thing is going to collapse. Interest on the national debt is projected to be $15 trillion a year, 15x what it is now by 2032, according to the U.S. debt clock. So, I mean, there's going to be a huge sovereign debt crisis in the United States if we don't get our act together fast. Neither candidate really cares about it, but that's the fiscal cliff that we're headed toward. So yeah, I mean as having the reserve currency, we could keep our interest rates artificially low. We could prop up our currency and run these massive deficits. The monetary policy of the Fed is basically enabling the government to do what they're doing as well.
We could definitely look at how these countries are receiving money from us, but also looking at the percentage of the U.S. budget that is in foreign aid. Do we know that number offhand?
Yeah, it's about 1.5% of the United States budget is foreign aid. So it's actually a very small percentage.
Okay.
It's actually very small. The big ticket items in the budget are Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on the debt, defense spending, income security, and government pensions. Those are the huge line items. That's about 91% of the budget right there.
Interesting.
And neither candidate wants to cut either of those, any of those. So it's just going to explode. The whole thing is just going to explode. I mean, you guys are going to see it, and it's going to be crazy. But, I mean, it's just a ticking time bomb.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds as though foreign aid, that would be at least the first place I would start, given that it's not benefiting the American people. Sure, it's a very small percentage of the budget, but I think it's also the easiest and most obvious to cut. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say I would cut foreign aid immediately, and I would phase out Social Security, phase out Medicare, phase out Medicaid. But yeah, we just need to. The government, all that money is just being stolen from the taxpayers, and so it's bankrupting the country. So yeah, I mean, I would actually agree with you. Foreign aid would be one of the first things that I would take out.
Interesting. Yeah, it's certainly disappointing and disheartening to see all that money going to foreign wars and foreign aid that could be saved, paying down our debt, benefiting the American people. really helping our country in some manner, say in the form of lower taxes where the money isn't seized in the first place, but instead we're having this massive giveaway of money, billions and billions. And even though it's 1.5% of the budget, it's still very disheartening to see all that money go away into foreign coffers. It's not helping the country. It's not helping the American people. It's not helping our companies. It's helping a select few. And that's the problem, at the expense of everyone else, mainly these foreign countries that would never help us when we needed it. So, frankly, it's just another way that the U.S. gets taken advantage of, and we continue to fall for it. They continue to abuse us and request for more and more money, and we just keep handing it over. And that's why you see Democrats in Congress flying the Ukrainian flag, because they're obsessed. They love throwing away our money. They love doing this. It's like their thing that they just can't resist. So any closing thoughts, Holden?
Well, I think you can make an argument for giving money to foreign countries. I'm just not convinced that. I mean, I could see the weapons, like excess weapons we have here in the United States, giving it over to Ukraine to fight that dictator. But at the end of the day, we're in a massive fiscal crisis. We're on the cusp of a massive fiscal crisis in the United States, and we need to get our act together. But unfortunately, I don't think we are.
Yeah, sad to see. I am hopeful that perhaps the perceived Department of Government Efficiency could be something that narrows our deficit and even brings us into a surplus. But that being said, thanks everyone so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to reach out to us, feel free at youthbombs@electrorepublicans.com. Thanks so much, everyone.